Saturday afternoon at the Philadelphia Spectrum, and no show Saturday night. We were off on a Saturday night. I mean, that was unheard of. And so I'd played a little bit the night before and was looking forward to a fun-filled evening in South Philly, and walked into the Spectrum knowing I'm leaving. I want to say we'd already dropped the belts on TV, but they hadn't aired yet.
Right.
And it was a drug test. Well, WWF at that time only tested for cocaine. They didn't care anything else that you took.
Mm-hmm.
And only tested for cocaine. Well, I failed. I knew I failed. And was expecting to be gone Monday or Tuesday when the test came back, because it's normally a 2 or 3 day test. They didn't tell me for it till November 2nd because they needed TV taping. They were doing a Saturday night's main event, and they wanted me and Arn to do a job for the Rockers. And we had the Survivor Series thing and wanted me to do a job for Ultimate Warrior. And set up Survivor Series. And then Vince called me the next day after I already got to Rochester, and that I failed the drug test. And WWF's policy was suspension on your first deal. 6 week suspension, then you come back to work. Well, we only had, 22 days left. So he suspended me. I flew back to Charlotte and left Arn up there to work, and didn't figure it was any big deal. I mean, the other company never had a drug policy at all. And today, don't really know how they found out. I mean, I only told a couple. Vince told them, or the people I told them. But Flair called me at 1 o'clock in the morning on November 13th and told me that Jim Herd had reneged on the deal because I'd failed the WWF drug test. And which are the events that led to what I do now. Because at 1 o'clock in the morning on November 13th, man, I'm laying there, I don't have a job. And I got Mercedes-Benz to pay for downstairs. I've got an image to pay for. I've got a lifestyle to pay for. I've got everything riding on this, and the two companies that you can work for are all of a sudden kicking me out. And then I laid there and I got mad. I said, man, screw them. They can't kick me out. I mean more than they mean.
Right.
I mean, all the rationale that you would go through your mind. And I got remorseful and said, God, surely we can work this out. I mean, surely I just got to talk to somebody. I mean, this is, I'll agree to drug tests or anything. It doesn't make any difference. I need my contract. I mean, I need that $750,000. And because this was my big hurrah. This was my big score. I was 35 years old. I needed 4 more good years because I didn't want to end up the wrestling business like my dad or like Ivan Koloff, or beat up, broke up, not being able to play golf, not being able to have any quality of life because you've gone out here and taken bumps.
Right.
And destroyed your body and not have anything to show for it. So, I mean, I wanted to be there, and I wanted my big game plan to be out by 40 and be in an office booking or something like that. And so all of a sudden everything's gone. And at 4:03 in the morning, after wallowing in my own self-pity, it only took me about 8 years to be able to describe that as self-pity. Because a lot of us feel it, but we don't say it. I said, Jesus, take over my life. And it was the first time I'd ever said the name Jesus when I wasn't cussing somebody. So I'd never been to church. I wasn't raised to where you would call on a spiritual God or spiritual solution to your problem. I'd always taught to just put your nose, work harder, overcome, fight, don't give up, that type of mentality. And right when I said, Jesus, take over my life, there was a calmness and a peace that came in that I felt that I'd never felt in my life. Never, ever. And didn't understand it, didn't know what had happened to me. And this voice told me that your life is going to be okay. And I relaxed and I fell asleep. And I woke up the next day and looked at my girlfriend that was with me, and I said, I need you to go home. Took her to the airport and sent her off. Never really expected to see her again. Now I'm married to her. And we had 4 beautiful children. But, God, that first few days was just unbelievable. And I really had not a clue what had happened to me. And my dad called me on Wednesday, I think. And he said, what's going on? He said, you don't sound the same. I said, you mean don't sound the same? He said, well, you're not cussing.
Huh.
I couldn't get 3 words out of my mouth without an F this or an MF that or a this or a GD something. You know, it was embarrassing. Cussing is nothing more than laziness, because you're too lazy to think up something to say. So when you cuss, you use one word that has 43 definitions. It's just it's an adjective, an adverb.
That's true.
And I was the worst. So I was, so I started seeing these changes in me and feeling a little different, and started reading a Bible, and 6 weeks later started going to a church. I was too embarrassed to go to a church because I wouldn't know what to say to somebody. If somebody recognized me, we were so recognized.
Right.
You know, what's going to happen if I walk into a church? You know, and so I can tell you, and I've told this to many inmates, I needed a change in my life because I didn't know, but I didn't know how to change. I can remember sitting in the garden in August defending against demolition, sitting in the dressing room when it's over with, and the only thing I thought about doing was getting out of there and getting drunk, because the only happiness that I had in life was when I was high. And it wasn't happiness, but it was the only time all day long that I was out of pain. And so you went from relief to relief to relief, day after day after day, and I needed a change, and I thought my change was going to be make more money and change companies and get away from WWF and get back to a group of people that liked us and wanted us, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so when the thing was over with, they didn't give me a contract. So I sat there for a month not talking. They froze me out. Arn, and they drilled Arn. He had a wife and a young baby, and just drilled him. They said, we paid for a tag team. You're a single now. And they gave him $156,000. Second year on his contract, $200,000. Third year, $250,000. So it cost him $146,000.